What's up, everyone? My name is James McCool. I'm the owner of PaydirtDFS.com, and today we are going to be doing a video for the Showdown season for Steelers versus Packers? Steelers versus Packers. I knew that. I don't know why it took me so long to come up with that. Usually this is an article that you can find here. It's going to be following, this video is going to follow a very similar structure. So for those of you who have not watched one of these videos or read one of the articles, then we're going to be going through Showdown captain ownership distributions, and then going through flex, and then just kind of talking about what those things mean for the slate overall. But I'm trying to do more video content, so we're going to do a video today. First, though, because SoCal Miss in the Discord berated me for making it so you would have to watch 7 minutes to actually get to the content, let me just start here really quick. So, as a TLDR, Kenneth Gainwell and Jordan Love make for the best captains overall in terms of edge. The worst looks like DK Metcalf or Tucker Kraft. There are no edges here that are significant, so you can make up a lot of this in the flex. If we go over into the flex really quick, take a look at the same stuff. Overall, looks like we have Aaron Rodgers, Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Gainwell, and Jordan Love as by far the best options in the flex. At worst is Christian Watson, Green Bay Packers defense, Tucker Kraft, and the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. So very clearly the defenses look over-owned or overvalued on this slate, whereas just going with good offensive pieces makes a lot of sense. The main value that the models like is going to be Kenneth Gainwell, and playing Jordan Love is a priority just up and down on the slate, both in the captain and in the flex. It would make sense, I think, to go towards a Pittsburgh lean here, mostly because we do have both Tucker Kraft and Christian Watson as negative to Green Bay, but I think you can play balanced on this slate. So if we wanted to break it down a little bit farther here so that SoCal Miss is now happy and doesn't have to watch the rest of this video, let's go ahead and go take a look really quick at the range of outcomes. We can take a look at some ownerships and stuff like that. So Jordan Love with the highest overall projection here at 18.31 for a median. His ownership is projected for about 73% ownership overall. It's relatively low. I think his price tag is fine. He makes for a really good play. Josh Jacobs, most expensive player on the slate. Projects for 55% total ownership, 62% in small field. Then we have Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Warren, and DK Metcalf as the other expensive guys. DK Metcalf is very clearly the odd man out here in terms of median expectation. He's 2 points below Jalen Warren for $300 less price. And then we have a pretty big salary drop off to Tucker Kraft and Romeo Dobbs. And then Matthew Golden is the last one above 10K and just looks like a terrible option. He's still going to get plenty of ownership, though. So, fading him just gives you plenty of upside in terms of relative value as is. When we look at the contest sims and kind of, take all of that in stride, Kenneth Gainwell makes for a really interesting option at just 4,500. I don't necessarily love him at captain. I think in large field GPPs, it makes more sense. In small field, I wouldn't touch him. I'd much rather just go with Jordan Love or go with Josh Jacobs, both which are fine. In terms of the exposure in winning lineups, both Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs have more than anyone else. So Aaron Rodgers would be the third, but he is negative. So I probably lean into either Jordan Love or Josh Jacobs at captain. When we take a look at the flex exposures, if you don't use one of Jordan Love or Josh Jacobs in the captain, then you're definitely going to want to use them in the flex. They just give you so much positive edge here that avoiding them doesn't make much sense. Kind of the same thing with Kenneth Gainwell. Now, I will say Kenneth Gainwell at 3K is probably cheap enough to where you could play him with Jalen Warren in large field stuff, and it would make sense. That said, I think you can play either or, and Kenneth Gainwell at 3K probably makes for a terrific value play in the flex to make sure you can fit both Josh Jacobs and Jordan Love and then also have room for Aaron Rodgers. The one that you're probably going to want less of is going to be DK Metcalf, and then probably Tucker Kraft. But if you're staying away from Christian Watson and if you're staying away from Matthew Golden, I think you probably prefer to just play Tucker Kraft, which again just makes both of these guys that much more important. Tucker Kraft with a negative 10% edge. You cancel that out with either Jordan Love or Josh Jacobs. So making sure that you have one of these four guys in your flex is pretty important to me, especially in SE. from a, let's see, let's go take a look at what the ownership optimals look like here, just so that we can get an idea of, what we should be avoiding. So Jordan Love in the captain looks pretty rough. He makes up by far the vast majority of highly owned lineups, ones that we expect to be highly duped. Like this one right here with Love, Gainwell, Golden, Rogers, Smith, and Jacobs at 50K with an ownership of 335. That lineup's going to be heavily, heavily duped. I would imagine that any of these ones where you have Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, and then Tucker Kraft, Jordan Love with Josh Jacobs and Kenneth Gainwell looks like a pretty highly owned combination, I think. So you'll want to be a little bit wary of the way that you build things out with that. It kind of looks like Josh Jacobs is the captain that we want to go with in especially large field. And small field, you can probably still do Jordan Love, but the contest sims love the combo of Jordan Love, Kenneth Gainwell, and Josh Jacobs so much that it kind of makes it hard to do that without risking high duping. If you stay away from Matthew Golden, that helps a little bit. Stay away from the defenses, right? That'll help. Stay away from DK Metcalf if you're going to do that combo. That'll help as well. But I think that Josh Jacobs probably makes the most sense for me in the captain. So overall, this is an okay slate. I think that, as I had just noted, I think that Pittsburgh stacks probably have more relative value, but using one of Josh Jacobs or Jordan Love in the captain makes the most sense from an optimality standpoint. Kenneth Gainwell makes for the best value. I think that playing both Gainwell and Jalen Warren is an interesting way to go in large field GPPs. Stay away from the defenses. Look to utilize kickers in the mid range for value, and hopefully somebody can take down a GPP. Thank you guys so much for the support. If you guys have any questions, reach out in the Discord. Happy to answer them. If you don't, then I hope that you win whatever contest you're in. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you later. See you later.